Tough job. It's a professional job. It's public safety at its best. It's the toughest beat in law enforcement, but it should not be made into commerce.
Buffy McFadden knows about prisons. She has 12 of them in the district she represents in the Colorado legislature. They range from the state penitentiary to the notorious federal supermax.
There's a veil of secrecy that comes to prisons because we don't want to talk about it. And we need to start talking about it.
She's also the most outspoken critic of private prisons in the state. We sat down with her during a recess in the House chamber to find out why.
It's just plain and simple. Philosophically, this is wrong. As long as you put money on bodies in a cell, you pay stockholders for those bodies in a cell, we will never see a reduction in our prison populations in this country. And in Colorado, where we've doubled our prison population in less than 10 years, it's despicable.
Critics say the whole issue with you, Buffy, is that you're just allied to the unions that protect these workers that work in the state facilities.
Oh, I'm arm in arm with the American Federation of Government Employees. We really don't have a big union in the state as far as state employees in the prisons. I'm locked arm in arm. The irony for me that the unions at the federal facilities are almost 70% Republican. They're retired military. Their civilian job is working for the Bureau of Prisons. So they're stuck with a Democrat woman named Buffy, and they've probably, a lot of them have never liked a Democrat before.
This year, the Colorado legislature is grappling with a dilemma. If the prison population continues to expand, the state will need another 4,600 prison beds by the year 2011. Unless something is done to reduce the growth rate, taxpayers will have to spend $800 million to build more prisons or turn to private contractors.
I don't want to keep filling our prisons. I don't want to keep building prisons because every dollar I have to put into a prison takes away from my infrastructure on my roads, takes away from my infrastructure building new buildings on college campuses, takes away insuring the people of Colorado, and it's the same at the federal level.
Colorado's cash crunch has finally forced lawmakers to look at the causes of its prison crisis. Last year, the governor convened a criminal justice commission to review sentencing laws and parole policies that contribute to the state's dismal 50% recidivism rate. Meanwhile, private prison companies have their own priorities to pursue. They want to keep their beds filled with paying customers. One way is by shipping prisoners from state to state. In 2006, that policy became a matter of life and death for Glenn Hoffman, when he and eventually 479 other Colorado inmates were transferred from the Buena Vista State Prison in Colorado to a private prison in Oklahoma owned by the Corrections Corporation.
He had been told he wasn't going to move because he got visits and because he had a job and he hadn't had any problems and he was doing well. And then all of a sudden they came around and threw a couple of bags into him and said, "Pack up, you're going."
Colorado officials told us that prisoners like Hoffman are just the kind of low-maintenance, low-cost inmates that private prisons are looking for. Even though Hoffman was serving time for assaulting his girlfriend while high on meth, he was a well-behaved prisoner and strong enough to win a prison weightlifting contest.
On one of the last times that he lifted at Buena Vista, that he had been lifting, and he said, "Mom, there just felt like I tweaked a muscle or something."
The pain was actually early signs of bone cancer. And according to Hoffman in this home video from his Denver hospital room, the medical staff at the Corrections Corporation facility in Oklahoma ignored his constant requests for advanced treatment.
It was taking me, a good 5-10 minutes just to get from the bed to the toilet in my cell, which is 2 feet apart.
By the time the tumor was discovered, it had shattered his femur, and he was transferred to a hospital back in Colorado.
I am convinced in my heart that this whole CCA tour that he did in Sayre, Oklahoma was it ended his life. By the time they finally admitted that he had cancer, or finally allowed him to have an MRI, the cancer had already spread to his lungs, which reduced his survival rate from 70% to almost 0. He was a strong kid, he fought it, but ultimately he's going to lose that battle.
Glenn Hoffman died a week later. His parents blamed the Corrections Corporation for neglecting him and the state of Colorado for moving their son so far from the help of his family.
For us, it's not natural for us to bury our children. I just don't think that's right. And that's not the crime that he committed. He didn't commit a crime that he deserves to die for. But that's what he got. That's what he got.
Right. Meanwhile, with 1 in every 100 Americans locked behind bars, the industry continues to thrive. 35 states and the District of Columbia now have private prisons. At last count in 2006, there were 113,000 inmates in private prisons. Throw in juvenile facilities and jails, and the numbers are even higher. We wanted to learn more about the private prison industry, so we signed up for the winter conference of the American Correctional Association in suburban Dallas-Fort Worth. The nonprofit association accredits both public and private prisons, sort of like giving them the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. But it also promotes the corrections industry and provides a meeting place for state and federal officials and the companies that want a share of the $55 billion the government spends on corrections each year.
There it is, it's blinking at me. I can silence it, I can shut that door, and I'm back to a normal operating condition.
The exhibit hall is part carnival, part trade show for what's openly called the Prison Industrial Complex.
The launcher is extremely easy to operate, extremely accurate. Load up to 6 rounds, pull the trigger, pump movement. You can even do sights on it, so you have a less lethal prisoner containment application.
This is free, faith-based, rehabilitative television.
But the biggest displays were from the private prison corporations. Cornell, the Geo Group, formerly known as Wackenhut, and the giant of the industry, the Corrections Corporation of America, which runs the 5th largest penal system in the country, managing 72,000 inmates in 65 facilities. Business has been good. Last quarter, its revenues were up nearly 11%, and it posted a $35 million profit. In Colorado, Buffy McFadden says that their lobbyists work behind the scenes to defeat reforms.
Say, for example, you have a bill on reducing sentencing in a state legislature like mine, and it's time to look at it. You won't hear the private prison industry or the for-profit industry talking against the bill, but you'll see about 4 to 6 lobbyists in the room making sure that bill fails.
When people hear you say that you believe that private prisons are in essence interested in creating more prisoners, people are going to say, I can't believe that. I don't believe that.
They have an investment in making sure people fail. They'll argue back, no, they do care. But any company that makes money off a body in a cell, how can their mission be anything else?